Greetings everyone and welcome to Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work, where we find out how one man manages to keep himself busy, physically active, and mentally engaged after retirement with projects. Today's project? Well, I have gone and done it now. Something popped up that I could not ignore, and I've gone and bought myself an 18-year-old 2006 Fleetwood Niagara pop-up camper, and it needs a little work. Check it out. See how well it continues to work. While here, got a clear glue that's all over here. This, I'm just completely baffled. There's something going. The Jeep, you'll see that the gap can work. Welcome back. And yes, you heard me correctly. I am now the proud owner of an 18-year-old pop-up camper. Now those of you that have been following my channel for a while know that we already own, my wife and I own, a 23-foot long travel trailer, a very nice one. So you may be asking yourself, why did I buy a pop-up camper? Well, actually, I have a very good reason for having done so, at least that's what I'm telling myself. And that is, you're also probably aware I drive a four-door Jeep and I like to go off on Jeeping events. And lots of times for these Jeeping events, I'm camping off-grid. And I'm kind of gotten to the point where I really just don't like, hanging out in a tent for 3 or 4 days at a time without the ability to take a shower, get cleaned up, and without the nice facilities you would have in a regular campground. So I've been kind of watching for something that might pop up that would be small enough for me to tow behind the four-door Jeep, but big enough to have a bathroom and a shower in it. This fits that bill. You may be wondering why this specific model. Well, I wasn't looking for this particular model, it just happened to fall into my lap. A friend of mine had it for sale and I went and took a look at it, and sure enough it met all the parameters from my perspective, and so we got together and chatted, and I picked it up a couple days ago. So what's the first step? So the first step is starting with the inside. The inside has a little bit of that cooped up mildew smell to it. I don't really see any mildew, but I do smell it inside. So all the curtains will come out, all the bedding will come out, all the cushions will come out. All of that will be thoroughly cleaned. I'll give a complete wipe down to all the surfaces with something that will kill off mildew, just in case it's there. Insides of all the cabinets included. Basically, the entire interior is going to get a very thorough cleaning, including the inside of all the canvas. After that, I will move on to the outside. All the canvas gets a thorough cleaning, the outside of the box gets a thorough cleaning, the top gets cleaned up, even this awning up here will get cleaned up. It's actually in a reasonably good condition, but it does have a few little pinholes in it, and those will get patched. At that point, I'll see if I can get the heater working, and that's not really all that critical, but it would be nice to have. And from there, I move on to minor structural type issues, which, for example, this pole over here, you can't see it, but the mount that goes on the side, that pole is missing. I'll order one of those and put on. A lot of little small things like that to get it 100% fully functional. And then use it for the month of February for 3 different weekends for a Jeeping event where I'm a trail guide. And after that, the more intricate work begins. That means possibly replacing all the curtains inside, maybe all the bedding gets replaced on the inside. And then here on the outside, well, just a lot of little things need to be done. There's a little crumple in that corner, there's a little bit bigger crumple on the other corner. I want to have those, a friend of mine's a body guy, he's going to help me kind of straighten out these panels and get rid of those issues. Somebody painted this. I mean, you can see here on this fender well, it's peeling off. Not a very good job was done on that. So the entire thing will get a whole new paint job. And then I'll do any repairs on the canvas and perhaps on the awning that need to be done. Probably will do a very thorough, complete makeover on the entire camper cosmetically. At that point, I'll use it and I'll let the family use it. And it's quite possible I might rent it out on RV Share. Hey, it'd be nice to have it pay for itself. Let's get started. But first, there's another story to tell. Before even leaving the seller's home, we ran into an issue. Long story, but we managed to break the shear pin on the crank, and with the roof fully extended. Fortunately, the door was in place, and on this model, the door is designed to hold one side of the top up to ensure it doesn't slam down and cause injury if there is a failure. Well, that worked fine, but it left us with an issue that had to be fixed before I could bring it home. A little bit of ingenuity on the part of the previous owner's son, and a repair was completed in short order. I pulled the camper home the following morning. This is nice. The shop back just barely fits through the door. Privacy curtains are in the washer and now the dryer, and they turned out really nice. These are the original curtains that came with it. You can tell from the coloring pattern. I'll pull them down here in just a minute and put them in the washer also. But you see we have stains like this, and I'm wondering if that will come out. One big long curtain apparently goes here. A valance, and there used to be valances along the top. I think they're all gone somewhere now. And then this big one over the sink. Let's pop those in the washer and see how they turn out. I'm going to live with them as long as possible, but holes like this will call for eventual replacement. Privacy curtains are cleaned up and coming out of the dryer. They actually look really good. Well, I spent at least an hour washing down this one bed wing here. I'm using initially this product, which is 303 multi-surface cleaner, recommended in a number of places where I was looking at what is used to clean this kind of application. The only real problem I have here, and this applies on both of the ends, is I do have a spot right here where it's gotten wet and the wood is starting to decay a little bit. Looks like it's probably mildewed in there as well. What I'll be doing, I don't want to use any really aggressive chemicals if I can avoid it. So I have ordered a box full of magic erasers, and that along with the 303 will pretty much get anything off the canvas. I've gotten most of it off the canvas already. It really looks a whole lot better than it did. I walked away for about a half an hour thinking, hey, it doesn't smell quite as bad in here. No, it still smells horrible. It's the following morning, and the front end of the camper has been cleaned on the canvas, and it looks much, much better. In comparison, let's walk back to the back end of the camper and see what's up top there. A lot of that was on the other one, so hopefully this comes out nicely. Cleaning up the canvas on the inside, getting rid of some of that mildew smell and a lot of stains. The other end's done already. It turned out pretty darn well. This side has been done on the top. Got a few stains that haven't quite gotten off. I think I can go back maybe and get them most of the way off. But a lot of the stuff looked like what I think you're probably seeing right there. This is not the most comfortable thing I've ever had to do. Very nice. Huge difference. So a really good way to get to know a new to you used camper is the thorough cleaning. Everything I touch here, I find something else interesting. And for example, this light fixture is missing the lenses and it doesn't work. The lenses are in a drawer over there. I did find those earlier. By doing this, I see everything that's wrong or needs attention on the camper. For example, here I don't know what that is. It looks like this is water penetration from underneath, above. I have some issues over here I'll show you in a second as well with the roof. Yeah, this is some kind of peeling that's occurring of this material. Here, for example, is the problem. This was damp under here. And so it has, in fact, leaked at some point somewhere above. Now, does it need attention other than trying to make this look prettier? I don't know. I'll take a really hard look at it when I do the roof. But honestly, it's not necessarily an issue. It's just cosmetic. Here you can see an issue where the roof has dropped down. So we've got a nice straight line here on this piece of metal, and then it's come down. And it appears to have been an attempt at some fixes in the past. Something's going on the roof up there. We'll have to check that out. So I'm kind of curious whether or not this AC unit is original. It's definitely old. Absolutely no doubt about that. But is it the original one? I don't know. The pictures I've seen, they're all white. There you go. One filter, no filter. It's definitely been up here a long, long time. I lean towards original AC. Scratch the only one filter comment. Here's the other one. It fell out and was laying on the floor. Gremlin number 3 walking up here just now. I just noticed that I have a soft floor right here. Not good news at all. Let's go around and see what it looks like underneath. Well, not all that good. Yep, there is definitely some bad flooring under here. It's not brutal, and changing out this would be quite a horror story. So I don't really intend to do it, but I may try and figure out a way to reinforce it. That would be nice. In comparison, underneath the bed extension, it looks pretty good. Except right over here in this corner, we've got a spot. And that's really not all that soft. It's also something that I don't really want to have to replace. Perhaps later, if I tear all the cabinetry out, I can do that. And here I am not thinking ahead again and taking a shot before I cleaned. This is underneath the cabinet beside the heater and the oven. And it was just a horrid mess. Dirt dauber, nest, lots of other trash, and it smelled terrible. Now you can stick your head in there if you really wanted to, and it doesn't smell all that bad. To illustrate, here's the underside of that cabinet drawer. You can see that dirt dauber nests are there. So clean that up good and put it back. One odd thing is all over the surfaces there's construction glue or glue, regular glue. And a lot of it I've been able to get off, quite frankly, by just kind of picking it. On the stainless steel, I can actually do it with my thumbnail. And it pops off pretty easily. Usually I can anyway. You can see that, if you can see that, it comes off in big pieces. But it does, of course, scratch the surface. But that's not too bad. I'm not worried about that too much. Along here, we've got a clear glue that's all over this countertop. And doing this, I may scratch the surface a little bit. For the moment, that's fine. It's not going to hurt my usage. I just want to get it up to where it's functional and clean. And a little bit later, I'll be replacing this countertop. Yeah. So I cleaned inside these under sink cabinets with an actual mildew remover and the Aerospace 303 cleaner, and not nearly the issue in here that existed over there by the stove. That had access to the outside world and was letting critters come in. This did not. One thing that I did find, however, the trailer weight information all is right here. Let me show you. Original stickers. even one that talks about moisture. I was all happy because the little DVD player in here was working. It was playing a DVD earlier, and now I popped one disc out and put another disc in, and it's not reading the fact that there's a disc in there, so it was fun while it lasted. That mildew smell, well, all of the covers for the cushions have been taken off. They've gone through the washer and the dryer, and they smell great. These are the cushions. I've left them outside in the sun for a couple of days. There's still a little bit of lingering smell of mildew in them. So I have decided to try something, and it's using a product that I had in the garage called Odor Ban. It's used to eliminate pet odors, and it mentions specifically mildew in there. And it also says it's safe to use on carpet and upholstery, and I'm assuming then this foam as well. So what I'm doing is I'm wetting this down first, because I figure if it kind of fills with water, then I'll squeeze some water out. When I spray it with the mixture, it'll kind of soak in a lot better. So, as opposed to it being dry, you first put it on. We do our porch cushions kind of like this on our Sunbrella fabric, and it works really, really well. I've never had to use the Odor Ban, but just for general cleaning purposes, same basic process. So these are going to sit out where they are right now. Actually, I'll pull them over into the sun. They're going to sit out and just kind of dry some for a couple of hours, and I'm going to come back and rinse them down really well one last time, and then roll them and get as much water out as possible, then leave them out in the sun for a couple of days to let them dry out completely. It should work great. Yesterday, got a lot done. All the canvas was finished. This side, from the oven all the way up to the door, also cleaned. That's including all the walls. Today, I still have 3/4 of the walls inside this part of the camper left to do, including the slide out over here and the bathroom. So yesterday was close to a full day, and today's going to be about the same thing. But I will say, coming in this morning, virtually no mildew smell at all. So what I've done has made a tremendous difference on the fragrance that was inside the camper. Gotten this far, need to go ahead and do everything else. Let's get started. Not too terribly bad. This is bent and the drawer drops down, so it's not bent, it's just coming loose. So I need to go in there and straighten that up. You can actually see there's an angle problem on this. Down underneath, well, there's no access to the outside world. It's just really, dirty from years of never having once been cleaned. And sticking my head in here, it smells like mildew. Well, I take it back. It smells a little bit less like mildew and more like just dirt. And there were a couple of dirt daubers in there, so they are getting in somehow. I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. Oh well. You gotta want to clean something if you're doing this. Much cleaner. I still wouldn't eat off of it. There are a few instances where I'm using a mildew side. This particular board here covers up this here, which is open to the outside storage. So you can get storage, you can get to it from the inside in two places, or you can get to it from the outside. And this most definitely had mildew on it. So I've hit it with the mildew stain remover, let it soak for a minute or two, and then wiped it down, and it's come nicely clean. One more cabinetry area that is open to the outside world. This houses the water heater and it houses the converter. So this side I've already vacuumed out. It looks fairly good after vacuuming, but it's really dirty still. This side has not been touched, and of course that's a cable that goes to shore power. And it is pretty nasty in here. You stick your head in there when you're vacuuming and it smells like mildew. So this one's going to get a good cleaning. We'll see how well it works out. This appears to be about the best I can do. A lot of wires in the way, and just can't really get down there even with the vacuum cleaner tip. But it is a lot better. I think I can clean up that a little bit right there. I'll try that. But I sprayed the whole area lightly down after I cleaned it with some of the mildew killer. So hopefully that doesn't damage anything, 'cause I have no way of wiping it off. And it should be fine. And that will do a lot to get rid of any mildew smell coming from this location. I'm through with everything on the slide out with the exception of this kick plate. There's one thing I've been looking forward to since I started this project, and that was pulling this stuff off of there. I'm guessing that this is a stick-on material over a kick plate that's been damaged or ruined. Let's see what we've got. Definitely peel on. This, make sure you can see it. This is definitely something that's been stuck on over this kick plate, and there's not going to be any getting it off of there intact, and there's not going to be any recovering on that kick plate, so replacing this should not be an issue at all. Getting rid of this funky stuff, that's very satisfying. So take a look at this. Here's what's behind it. Behind that is that mess. So it's really just a matter of getting another piece of glue on and tacking it on all the way across here. Easy job. One other point of interest while I'm looking at this, a lot of people will put down vinyl flooring in these, and that's kind of what I'm thinking of maybe doing at some point. The biggest problem they sometimes have is this gap here is too small. When you pull the slide in, it'll scratch the floor. This appears to be fine. I need to take a look at it with the slide actually in and make sure that it clears. But I think vinyl flooring would look really nice in here. Cleanup is finally winding down. Last thing left is the wet bath. As you can see here, I have some repair work that'll have to be done eventually at some point. It's cosmetic, not structural, but it is pretty unattractive. That'll be interesting to see how I manage to do that. So I'm just going to kind of start with it down, being the walls, and work from there. After 18 years, amazingly enough, that's all in pretty good shape. Very nice. Once everything's cleaned up, I got to start making sure all the systems work. Like, for example, this toilet. Suppose that we have 20 gallons of onboard storage for water, a small black tank and a small gray tank. And I haven't crawled under there to make sure that they're all actually there like they're supposed to be. So I'm pretty curious. When I look in here and flush, there's a tank. So that's a good sign. This commode appears to be in really good condition. I have already turned the pump on and it flushes. Whoever used construction glue around here was really messy. This has been vacuumed. And I just get it once good with water on the sponge. See how clean we can get it first, and then hit it with some cleaner. And what you're seeing there is glue. Again. The lid appears to be coming off. Wow. Someone just really had no idea how to not spill glue. And that, I had no idea how anyone could have done such a nasty, messy job with that. That's horrible. So interestingly enough, the Aerospace Figure 3 combined with this scrubbing sponge got just about everything off. I've got a spot here and a spot here I just can't quite seem to get. For the moment, I'm going to back off on it. What is the real challenge, though, is going to be this. And I'm completely baffled. There's something's going on here I don't understand. But this whole thing is buried in silicone right here, and clear. And obviously it's gotten dirty over the years on the outside where it was trimmed out. And that's just not the way you normally caulk one of these. I don't know what I'm going to do about that one. I'm going to sit on it for a little bit and give it some thought. Cleanup is winding down. Last thing left, vacuum. And then wash the floor. You may have noticed that I said wash the floor, not mopping it. No, I'm going to get down on my hands and knees and scrub it with more of that cleaner and a scrub brush like this sponge, and then wipe it down. I've got spots on the other side over here that are, guess what? Chunks of construction glue that have to come off. So it's just going to be a 100% hand scrubbing job at this point. As I mentioned before, by doing this, you get to see all the little things that are wrong. Like down here is a whole bunch of bad wood that's gotten wet over the years, probably from the shower, maybe from the leak that guy was trying to fix before, who knows. But you know, this is all covered with just a vinyl cover on it. So I'm going to have to come up with some way to repair all that. Or maybe just paint over it. Glue. Glue. Actually, it's silicone again. Silicone. I decided to completely pressurize the system and to try out the water heater. The water heater works great, but there's a leak right here at the fitting, so I'm going to get a pair of pliers and see if I can tighten that a little bit. I cannot tighten it anymore by hand. However, pliers should do it. If it doesn't work, I'll have to drain the water heater and then re-tape everything. Well, I did manage to tighten it a little bit, and I actually think that made it worse. I may have to get a whole new fitting. I'm not quite sure what these fittings are. So I thought I would drain the water heater here. And it's going to take more than this to break that loose. That's a 1/2-inch drive, and it isn't budging. Now, I can get a breaker bar and put on it. I'm sure that'll work. I'm a little concerned about doing it right now. I may wait until after my trips next month, and just in case I break something that I can't fix easily, because it's working well right now. Yeah, this is probably not going to work. You can't quite see it from this angle, but that rubber ring there on the shark bite is damaged on the bottom side, and it's a leak path. I don't know where to get these. I'll poke around and find them somewhere, but in the meantime, I'm going to put it back together and just see if I can somehow seal it. As noted previously, I need to fix the leaking connector on the water heater. Here are the tools of the trade involved. The actual connector, the crimp ring, the crimping tool, and something to cut that tubing with. Well, I figured that nobody nearby would have this particular item in stock, so I bought 4 of them on Amazon. And then I thought I had some of these crimp rings, and I didn't, so I went down to Ace to get those, and believe it or not, they sold this as well, so I could have just got it all there. A little delicate camera work here. I've already started this one, so also I've turned off the valve so it's closed going to the water heater. I might have a little bit of leaking here. I don't think so. No, none at all. Boom. There you go. That was easy. Here's my crimp ring. That slips on first. Let's just hope we can get this in place. Chance in heck. No way. Wrong size. This is 3/8 versus 1/2 inch. So that is not going to happen. Well, after all that, I have the wrong connector. I didn't see any 3/8 at all. I'm a little amazed, but I cannot find anywhere on Amazon this in 1/2 inch to 3/8. It's all 1/2 to 1/2. I've looked also all over other sources for the internet and cannot find it. So what I'm going to do, get a little creative here, I'm going to attach this in the normal fashion, cut it short, and then I ordered a coupling that steps down from 1/2 inch to the 3/8. That's on the old connector. So it's kind of a backwards way of doing things, but it should work just fine. We'll be here tomorrow. It's the following day and my part came in. The part I ordered was this. This is a step up or step down from 3/8 to 1/2 inch. So I have installed that. It's a cold day. This pipe was just very stiff. I took a heat gun to it to soften it a little bit. I couldn't even bend it. So now I had the bypass turn back on to where water will flow, and we're just about to hit the pump and see if we have a leak. Let's get at it. Water is pouring out of that thing. Alright, let's try something else. I had it finger tight, not cross threaded, everything was perfect. I'm gonna get a wrench on it. They got it. The only way to test it though is to heat up the heater. 10 minutes with the heater heating up. I'm getting hot water now in the sink. Drying this off good. It's hard to tell whether or not there's a little drip still. One little drip. As you imagine, heat expands everything. So this is when it would leak. Microwave replacement time. As I mentioned earlier, the old microwave would turn on, but it wouldn't actually heat anything up, and it squealed a lot, so it had to be replaced. Now, I spent a good 2 hours online trying to find an exact duplicate replacement for that microwave. It just doesn't seem to exist. So I did the next best thing. I ordered something that's just a little bit, tiny bit smaller, but the faceplate still actually covers up the hole. Okay, so I'm pretty much good with that. However, it just barely covers it up, and to do that I have to put a plate in down here to raise it up, and then put another plate in here so that I can screw the actual screws in. So just a barely fits. I haven't installed a built-in microwave in 20 plus years. This one's a little different. It has a plate that goes underneath on the bottom, and I guess it routes air out underneath, so it helps to cool, and then it has a plate that goes on the top. That's not all that uncommon, but you've got to assemble both of these yourself. So that's step number one. This plate, by the way, does not mount to the microwave. It mounts to the cabinet underneath, so I've got to put this in place after I put that shim board down to raise up the height of the microwave a little bit. This is 5/8 inch plywood, leftover piece I had in the shed. Cut down to just where it barely fits inside of here. And I'm just going to pop a couple of screws in to hold it in place. Nothing too dramatic. Pretty good. It's flush there. That's a repair. It'll have to be done later. Right. See if I'm any good at this or not. That one worked. Sweet. It looks good. Let's just hope it covers up that gap completely. No, it's not going. It's got to come off of this, and the only way I can think to do that is with a planer. So I'll probably just grab my hand planer and take off about, a quarter of an inch within this space that's required there. Alright, disassemble. Using the planer, I took off one whole segment of this 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 layers. It's down to 4. Hopefully that's enough. Let's find out here. Nope. That board's got to be half that much again at least taken off. It's gotten complicated. Worked. Takes 4 screws. You line it up dead center with your dead center mark and screw them in. Okay, that worked. She's in. Plug the camper in and the lights came on. How about that? Let's hit start for 30 seconds. Works. The dining bench cushions and the little sofa cushions turned out absolutely fantastic. Covers came off, went in the washer. The foam was cleaned up with a special chemical. I've shown you that already, and now they look great. And getting them back into the covers was a challenge, but not too big of a challenge. The bed cushion, this is going to be interesting. The bed cushions, well, the covers came off with a fair amount of effort. Cover went into the washer, didn't fit well, but it fit, and it cleaned up really nicely. The foam cushion, I used the same process I used on the inside bench cushions, and it also cleaned up very nicely. Now it's completely dry. The problem here is getting this back onto the foam. With the other ones, they were small enough I could just kind of bend and push. I'd have to crawl inside this one to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is turn it upside down and see how well that works, just kind of peeling it back onto the foam. Wish me luck. A little windy out here today. It's not going to help things. Mattress number 2. After having gone through a challenge to get mattress number 1 clean, getting this cover off, I broke a zipper in the process, can't get that put back together. Barely fit in the washing machine, problem after problem. I'm just cleaning this one up really well. So I have gone over it really good with the cleaner already. I've sprayed it down with that odor band material, flipped it over and really cleaned the canvas or the vinyl up on the bottom well. And I've sprinkled it with baking soda. It's been sitting out here in the sun now for several hours, just baking in the sun. Well, it's January, so it's not that strong of a sun, but it's sun nonetheless. And nothing is better for killing mold and mildew than UV light. So we're going to let this sit out here for a while, and I'm going to go ahead and get the baking soda out of it. You may notice here, construction glue. Whoever did all that gluing inside just had no concept of how to protect things. Oh well, covered by sheets. Smells fine. Little progress made today. This outdoor light by the door was not functional. The switch wasn't working. I ordered a new assembly, and now we have a light. It's great. The light above the dining slide out was not working. Now, I removed it and checked the power, and sure enough it had good power, so the fixture was bad. So I ordered a new one, and wow, it actually is pretty bright. A nice LED light. Well, it turns out that you can buy parts at several places for these campers. One of them is called Coleman Pop-Up Parts, and they had keys. Apparently, there are only 3 different keys used to open the doors. Not entirely sure which one was the one I should be buying. I just bought all 3, and sure enough, one of them works just fine. It will not open the shower, outside shower. I've got to work on that and try and figure that one out. It may just be stuck because I believe it should work. It turns out that one of the keys I got from Pop-Up Campers works for the auxiliary shower. Not much in there. This goes into the slide out and under one of the benches and goes down. So why it doesn't just run all the time, I'm not sure. There must be some valves in line. I'm going to see if I can figure that one out. Also bought a bag of rivets because I've got to do some rivet repairs on the back of the camper. And they had RV trim insert, which I need when I do that same repair on the back of the camper. Also, I have some canvas separation at the seams, so I bought something called a Speedy Stitcher. Now, I'm not going to show you how to use it. It took me a few minutes to get the hang of it, but it's really pretty easy, and there are plenty of tutorials online on how to use one of these. It's not really all that big, you can see, compared to the size of my hand. A couple of needles inside and a 30-yard roll of thread is in the handle. I've done 2 stitching repairs so far. This, all the way across to here, was just lapped over and hanging. All the threads had busted. Now, I will admit, obviously, I'm not the best guy in the world when it comes to sewing, but I'm quite satisfied with that. That's going to hold up really well. And this flap will now zip shut, and this will zip open without any issues. One thing you might get a kick out of is that anyone that has a camper recognizes this. This is how they have sealed holes in the canvas, and this is tape used on the roof of a camper to seal around an air conditioner or a vent or something along those lines. And it is very, very good at what it does, and it is totally inappropriate for this application. It works, but it just doesn't look good at all. And getting that off of there and getting it clean is going to be a real nightmare. And here's one, and there's one, and there's one, and there's one. And oops, gosh, there's one, and there's one also. And at the other end, there's one right there. Oh, and one more. And when I say this is inappropriate, it's not really inappropriate in the fact that it won't actually work. It's just that cosmetically, it's not the best way to go about it. You can get a canvas patch that pretty closely matches the color and just use that. You hear me complaining about that vinyl patching job with the tape. This is another patch that was done, and this is what should be done. It's a piece of matching canvas that's stitched in. That looks acceptable. Definitely a rip. See, they taped the backside with that white tape again. Canvas cleaning time. It's actually working pretty well. I'm using a combination of mildew stain remover where it's needed, multi-surface cleaner from 303, the Mr. Clean pads, and then just a bucket of water and a scrubber, and a fresh, clean washcloth after to kind of dry it off. Here's the results. I'm not sure how well this will show up. This side has not been cleaned, and you can see in here all this dirt and mildew. This side has been cleaned, and it looked exactly the same and all that dirt and mildew is gone. The colored side of the vinyl canvas, I've done up to here, and it doesn't look a whole lot different. I doubt this shows up on camera. I am very, very pleased with the way this is turning out. This canvas is looking practically brand new. Even up here underneath, where it hasn't probably been scrubbed in maybe ever, it's coming clean. Few spots where there's mildew, get hit with a mildew remover, scrubbed real well, and then rinsed off pretty quickly. This stuff's pretty aggressive. I don't want to leave it on there. Even though it says it's made for canvas. I don't know if you can see it, but there's my Frankenstein stitching job. It's not pretty, but it worked. Well, that's a sticker over another one of those little white pieces of tape. Let's leave it there for now until I figure out what I'm going to do about that. I am doing a system by systems test, and I filled the 20-gallon water tank to overflowing, and it appears that we have a leak at that fitting. Water system's working just fine. I hooked the hose up here, and along with a pressure regulator, and it worked very, very well. No problems at all. While the camper was hooked up to the hose, I went ahead and filled the toilet up about halfway, and good news there, no leaks. Strange thing, this black valve is for gray, and that gray valve is for black. There shouldn't be anything of water in there. I'm going to drain this off and see how well that valve works. It works. One thing I was worried about was the shower drain is not hooked up to anything. And I was a little concerned that the black water might work its way out, but it apparently does not. As long as I keep the valve closed to the gray water side, no leaks. It's now time to consider putting this back together the way it should be after the little incident with the shear pin. I've been debating with myself whether or not to do that right now. The reason is, not too far down the pipeline I intend to paint this body, and it's ideal when I do that to pull this trim off and paint and then put the trim back. And if I put it all back now and put it all down with all the proper materials and I have everything here, I've got to get all that gunk back off again before I paint. Right now the gunk is pretty much off. It'll be easy to do it if I were to do it today, which I'm not prepared to do. So what I think I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and put this plate back and perhaps maybe seal some of the holes where the rivets go, just so nothing gets behind it. And I won't be in that much water, I hope, or rain. I say that it'll probably happen, but my egress points are around the edges of this, and there's really not much for it to get to back here. There is plywood back here, but it's that far back. Any water that gets in is going to drip right down and come out the bottom down here, doing minimal damage, between now and the time I get around doing the paint work. So I think that's what I'm going to do. First step will be putting this plate back. And by the way, this supports the fact that a little bit of water back here is not much of an issue, because this is open to the world anyway all the time. There's no seal around these holes. So the first thing I need to do is punch out these old rivets. See if I can get them out. Well, that's apparently easier said than done. Well, it worked. How about that? One nice thing about this is the previous owner put 3 brand new tires on it before he sold it. So this is new. The rim is a bit of a mess. maybe wise to replace that, I'm not sure. On the other hand, maybe I'll just sandblast it down, so we shall see. All right, what do we got? There. Socket is 13/16, and I checked it against the wheel lugs. They're also 13/16. So sometime between now and the time I take my first trip, I need to buy a bottle jack and a lug wrench. I ended up buying a multi-purpose lug wrench. I like those, they come in handy. And I also ended up buying a combination jack stand and bottle jack. A lot of folks in the Jeeping community use these. This should be nice should I ever need it. Time to do a little exterior cleanup. Move the camper out where I can wash it. Let's see what kind of impact we have on things like that, and on a very dirty roof. I'm going to start with the roof, and down there in particular it's got a lot of mildew, mold, and dirt and nasty stuff on it. So I'm going to begin with a mixture of pool chlorine, about 25% water, and Dawn detergent. Let's see how that does. Well, that's better. It is not clean yet, though. Keep trying. We see all kinds of damage like this on the roof. Not really sure if that's all the way through or not. At some point, I will be pulling that AC off and completely sanding down and repairing this roof, including removing and resealing that seam. Right now, I just want to get it clean enough to take it and use it some in the next month or two. So this wand is taking off a lot of the loose paint, and it's just a wand. I bet if I brought my pressure washer out here and hit it, it would take off pretty much all the paint. Maybe later. Silicone again. Well, it's had a nice bath, so now the question becomes, how wet is it on the inside? I don't think it's a question of will it be wet on the inside. I'm pretty sure this roof leaks around an air conditioner somewhere. But just how wet will it be? So I'm going to crank her up, see what it looks like. Well, most of my cleanup work is done. All little subsystems and little issues I've found are for the most part fixed. So I believe now the camper's ready for an actual road test. And of course I brought it back with my pickup, which is a 3/4 ton, no issue at all pulling with that. But what I want to pull it with, and the reason I bought it, is that I like to pull it with my 2008 Jeep JK 4-door. Now this camper is dry, weighs a touch over 3,000 pounds. Fully wet, it weighs right at 3,800 pounds, and that's fully loaded. It's gross vehicle weight rating. The Jeep is designed to pull 3,500 pounds, so I'm right in the middle. Now I have pulled more with it. I put on a heavier bumper on the Jeep, and it does a great job of pulling, and I also put in a 7-pin connector. So from that perspective, I'm safe. The Jeep doesn't have to stop the trailer stops itself with its own brakes. The question is, how much of a drop will I get on the back end? Because I weighed this tongue yesterday. I have a scale for doing that. And it was right at 360 pounds, and the max weight rating on the stock bumper is 350 pounds. This bumper, again, is quite a bit more rugged than the one that came on it. That being the case, we want to measure just how much squat we get on the back end of the Jeep when I drop this tongue onto it with 360 pounds of tongue weight. It'll be more if I fill up both of the canisters for LP. It might be less if I'm loading gear in the back of the camper. It kind of levels it out. The question I'm asking myself is, do I need a weight distribution hitch on this? Let's find out. I want to see what the height is from the floor to the bottom of this fender, and it's 40 1/4 inches. Let's drop the trailer on and see what happens. All right, we're in contact. Definitely dropping the Jeep some. So before we were at 40 1/4. We are now at 39. So I've lost 1 1/4 inches. That's acceptable. It's not too bad. Question now is, how close am I to my bump stops? Oh, tons of room. So from the perspective of a rear end squat, in good shape, I think. Kind of surprised. I expected there'd be more drop than that. I have put the big camper on before. The big camper weighs about 900 pounds, and that's just, it flattened. That's the tongue weight. All right, so that locked down. Make sure we have trailer lights, which were questionable at times on the other vehicle. That's too long. I need to fix that. Working lights there. I've got working lights everywhere here. Bulbs are kind of dim. Let's go turn on the flashers and see if we have flashers. Working on the trailer. That's good news. I'm going to pull the whole thing out into the yard and just take a look at it from a distance and see how bad the squat is on the Jeep on level ground. I don't think it'll make much difference. Hope so. And also going to take a look at how the trailer is level based on the hitch that I have. Do I need to get a hitch that drops down a little more so the trailer doesn't ride too much nose up? Well, I think we look pretty good. You know, if you look at the Jeep, we've got a little more gap between the top of the tire on the front and the fender and the top of the tire and the rear on the fender, but not much. I don't think it's enough to cause me to have some sort of weight distribution hitch to move weight towards the front of the vehicle. Only thing it'll prove that is a test drive. Also, the camper itself, it's nice and level overall. This is a good level ground that it's on right now. And it's tiny bit nose high. Doesn't really matter in this application as long as I'm not doing something that causes the back end to drag, which I'm not. And then if you have a 2-axle camper, you didn't have an issue if you're nose high, because you're putting a lot of weight on the rear axle and a lot less weight on that front axle, and the balance on that is not good. You have to correct that. The third thing I needed to look at was, did I have visibility behind me? Well, I can't see anything out of the center mirror, but the side mirrors, the camper is only about 7.5 feet wide. So in this particular case, I can see way back behind me using the 2 side mirrors, maybe a good 250 feet at least, which is what I think is required by law in Florida. So I'm gold from that perspective. You know, I think the only thing really left to do is take it for a test drive, see how it does. Headed down the dirt road, and at the moment I'm impressed. It's working pretty well. The Jeep is not known, it's got a 3.8 liter V6, and it is not known for its ability to tow or to handle high stress, high performance applications, to say the least. But it's doing pretty well right now. We'll be getting onto the paved road in just a few minutes, and we'll see how well we do with actually sway control. That's my next biggest concern. Alright, on the paved road, we're up to about 40 miles per hour. One thing I noticed already is I checked the brake controller, and it is hooked up and it is working, but it doesn't put a lot of pressure on those brakes. In my pickup truck, it did a very good job. And here, when I hit the manual brake controller, I don't know, there's not much going on. That's not good. I'm back on the dirt road now. Originally I was set on about, my gain was set on about 6. I moved it up to 7, and really not much changed. I have now moved it up to 9, and I should be locking up these brakes whenever I hit them manually on this controller, and they are working better at 9, but I think they probably limit out at 10. No? They're up to, maybe it's this controller. Let's see. I'm up to 12 now. Let's see what happens. Oh. Huh. Well, there's a difference. Well, they're not locking up, but they're working for sure now. Well, let's play a little bit. I wonder what the max is. Max is 14. Stopped at 14. Let's see what happens there. Well, it still doesn't lock them up, but it is doing its job now. Interesting. I want to move it back down to 12. I think 14 is too high. Okay, trailer brakes work. It just takes a lot more gain to get them to work properly. And you know, just cycling to this thing some, this hasn't been used in a long time, so I imagine those brakes are glazed over pretty bad. It will take a little bit of time for them to unglaze and to work properly. But definitely they are kicking in now. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to pull the drums off and inspect the brake pads. I'm on a kind of a windy, curvy back road right now, and the trailer is tracking really nicely. It's not pushing me around at all. I was a little concerned that it might try and do that, but it's not. So far, I'm happy. All right, nobody coming. I have plenty of room. Let's see if the Jeep gives any acceleration at all. Not really. It feels it. It feels it big time. But it's getting up there the way it should get up there. So I'm up to 50. Everything feels good. Doing a little wobble. See if I can force something to happen. Got my hand on the controller in case I need to hit the brakes. If you do get sway, you correct that by hitting your brake controller, not your actual vehicle brakes. 60 miles per hour. The truck doesn't like it. The Jeep doesn't like it at all. But it did shift in overdrive. 64. I'm going to run out of room here before I have to turn. I hit the brakes on it just to try it, and they are catching. That's good. So, at 60 miles per hour, I am not feeling anything to indicate there's an imbalance back there. Again, my biggest concern at this point now is sway control. Here comes, for example, a semi. Let's see if he causes me any concerns. Okay. Nothing at all. That's good. I'll tell you what, I'm actually happy. It pulls nice. It pulls as well as the Jeep will pull, which is not great with this 3.8 liter engine. It's just not. But it does. It's doing a good job. It feels stable. My first trip with it will probably be in a couple of weeks, and I've got a 180-mile one-way trip to do. And at that time, I don't know for sure if it's going to work well or not. Between now and then, I will go over the tires real well. I may pull that wheel off and take a look, both the wheels off, and just take a look at the brake pads. See how they look, and if I have time and they're a problem, I'll switch them out. Looking good. One important comment is why this is so stable is because you need to have between 10 and 15% of the weight of the vehicle on the tongue. And if this one's weighing in around, I guess about 3,200 pounds right now, and I've got 360 pounds on the tongue, I'm in that sweet spot. So it's highly unlikely that I will have any sway issues at all. Now, if I load a whole bunch of weight in the back of the trailer, you know, even put a couple of bicycles on the back, that will change the tongue weight and make me more susceptible to sway issues. Something to give some consideration to when you're loading your trailer. Let's check out these brakes and see what's going on. Hey, this gives me an opportunity to try out my new jack and my new lug wrench. This is kind of nice because it locks into place for a pre-established height, and you just crank it up a little bit further that you want to go. However, it is fairly small, and I'm not so comfortable with the idea of it holding up all that weight and me underneath it with a tire on there, unless I have to. And so I'm going to use one of my standard jack stands as a backup on this side. First thing, let's get these broken loose. Breaker bar, a little extra leverage. There you go. Typically when I travel with the travel trailer, I'll carry a torque wrench with me, a big one, and that way I don't have to worry about something like this happening where this isn't long enough to give me the leverage that I need. Tires off the ground. Okay. Again, for a little security, putting this other one down here. I'm not going to drop the frame down onto it. It's just there as a backup in case something were to fall a little bit. One thing I need to get is a board, maybe a 2x8, 12 to 18 inches long, to carry with me here, so that jack has something to rest on if I have to change a tire in soft dirt. One of these days I'm going to buy a battery-powered impact wrench. So this is not really a difficult job, but it can be messy, a lot of grease. I think the best possible outcome would be that I get inside there and I find out that the brake pads are in great shape, and that all we needed to do was adjust them, which is quite possible. However, keep in mind this is an 18-year-old camper, and we simply don't know what kind of condition those pads will be when we get inside. They could be the originals. Yeah, gotta remember how this is done. It's been a while. So these nuts are put on finger tight, basically, and too tight and they squeeze too strongly on the bearings. And that little piece there that just popped off holds it in place so it won't move. There you go. The whole assembly came off. What do we got? Well, we are seeing serviceable brake pads, meaning that they would still work, but they are 2/3 at least gone. Not what I wanted to see. I probably can get another couple thousand miles out of them, but they kind of need to be replaced. Let's see how this drum looks. Drum looks fine. It's good. No real cuts or no big lip on the edge here, so the drum is fine. great shape. So now the question becomes, what do? Do I try and find new pads and change them out? Often you just buy this entire assembly and pop it in there, but I don't really want to do that. So I think what I might do is adjust these out at the moment, because I can get a little bit more life out of them. Not much, but a little bit. And then start researching the replacement pads. These are big pads. I guess this is probably a 10-inch assembly. And find out what to get, order the pads in. And as you can see, this only took a few minutes to get into here. Taking these pads on and off and these springs is no fun, but it's doable. And so that's what that's what I think I'll do for the moment. So what I'm doing here is I'm spreading these out just a little bit more before I put this back on, and then I'll come in from behind if necessary and tighten them a little bit more. Somewhere I have a brake adjustment spoon. I can't find it. I've opened that thing up a good 1/4 of an inch. That's getting me a little bit more drag. That's what I wanted. The rule that I recall is you would get it tight, and then you would back it off enough to get the castle nut locked in with a pin. Well, there's no locking pin on this, so I'm not entirely sure what the rule is for this. I mean, you certainly can get it too snug that you damage the bearings. So anyway, let's do that one more time. It's just snug. That's it. Okay, and that's what we're going to run with. So this goes back on. Only works one way. All right. On the back of the drum, there's a plug, a little rubber plug on the slot, and that's actually it right there. That gives you access to the adjuster. Thing is, now you can't see a darn thing, so get here, and that can be done with a screwdriver. It can also be done with a brake adjustment spoon that I mentioned earlier. I've done this many times over the years. I don't think I've ever had one this far out of adjustment. Aha! Can't budge it now, so we're tight. Now I gotta back it off. Alright, I was so tight I couldn't move it. I backed off 3 clicks. Perfect. Now we gotta do the other side. When all this is said and done, I'll come back at each of these wheels with the torque wrench. This is actually my first little experiment here. The table has taken a bit of a bow. It's a saucer in the middle. So I'm going to set it out here and see if putting a weight on it over the next month we drop that bow out. May put a second brick on there and see how well that works. And also I would like to put it out into full sun when opportunity presents itself. That way the heat will assist in changing it. Took 20 years for it to get like this. I don't expect it to repair itself overnight. I've been trying to straighten this table out. I originally had tried putting some bricks on it to get the curve out of it, but I realized the other day the curve is not because of the tabletop. Well, it is, but it's because of this bracket on both sides. So by removing that bracket and straightening it, the hope is that the tabletop will straighten as well. So here is one bracket already straightened, and you look down here, we've got a nice straight line on the tabletop. This is really good news. The other side, you know, keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully it works. So I am using, you can see that there's a nice bow in this. So I'm using a block of wood to help straighten it. And then that doesn't quite do it. So on the first one, so I take this block of wood there, like that, and hit it. And if necessary, I'll take the block of wood like this and hit right on that center bend. And then when I was completely done, I laid it all back down and just kind of touched it up. Try that one more time. And with a little bit of hammering, instead of a bow, it's pretty darn straight now. Still getting a few items for the pop-up. Got some gloves for handling waste that'll stay inside the camper. Ordered a few items from pop-up carts. Honestly, I don't even remember what these are. Ah, okay. Here you go. Got a replacement bead hose for the water storage. Got a new crank because the old crank looked really bad. Got a couple of keychains and a second key for the outdoor shower. A couple more items I've ordered to kind of get me off the ground. I need storage. Put a lot of these things in. And I ordered a few storage cases. One came with the camper and it was pretty much perfect. But I couldn't find the exact one again. So I bought these. One moment. Which are almost exactly the same size as the other one. Of course, ordering them online, you had to buy 6 of them, but they weren't particularly expensive. And these will fit nicely in the side storage. They'll also fit nicely under the benches for the table. Got a nice jack. Bought a nice lug wrench. Those will be kept in here, in that particular storage area. And normally you would keep your sewer hoses in the back bumper, but they won't fit. They're just a little bit too big. So I'll keep those in one of these cases along with the gloves. And I should be able to fit 3 or 4 of these in this little work cubby. And as you are setting up and breaking down, you can just grab the box you need to do whatever kind of work you're doing. So here's the box that was already in it, and here's the one I found as potential replacements. It's essentially the same thing. Both of them will fit in sideways like that. The smaller one actually fits right under the bench over there. Let's see if this does. They both. So I'll be able to use these in the bench and under the bench, and this whole area accessible from the outside. Should work out really well. All right, 3 boxes so far. One has my jack in it. It'll slip right underneath there. Second one is the one that came with the camper. It has the hoses in it, and that'll be kept where it's readily available. Third one has setup gear, and there'll be more in there as we go. And that fits in there nicely. Turn sideways. And you know what else? I think I can double stack these. Look at that. One there. Will a second one go? Maybe we'll get lucky. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. That'll work great. Question now becomes, will it fit through this door into here? I'm not entirely sure it will. A little bit too tall. So if I load it in this direction, will it work? The answer is yes. All right, great. Pots and pans. What else interesting has shown up? Aha. These little guys for the shower. Didn't have enough of them. They were kind of shot. So I got another box of, I think 14? Yeah, 14 of those. Putting those up shortly. Some of the old rusted hangers and some of the new, not really rusted hangers. I ended up using 2 shower curtains here because one would not reach far enough. I really had difficulty finding one that would cover everything. At one point, I thought there might be a gray water tank on board. Researching a little further, no, there never was one. Just a pipe leading from the sink and from the shower to the gray water dump valve. I guess you're expected to dump into a honeypot like this, or connect directly to the sewer if your campsite has a direct connection, or I guess just dump your gray water onto the ground. However, the piping from the shower to the dump valve was missing. That explains the excessively heavily silicone-sealed shower drain. If you look at the ABS connector that's supposed to be connected to the shower, it has a pipe broken off inside the female receptacle. At some point, it must have taken a hit and it shattered. The shower drain was replaced, but no one ever replumbed the shower to the gray valve. It's time to correct that. This was not easy. I tried chiseling it out with a screwdriver. No luck. I tried cutting grooves in it with a jigsaw, which worked. I got the grooves cut, but I still couldn't separate the pipe. I finally used a grinding stone bit on a Dremel, and I ground it out. And that actually worked really, really well, but I did a fair amount of damage to the female ABS pipe. Then I glued in my new pipe with standard PVC glue. Well, that was a mistake. It leaked like crazy. Researching a little further, I learned that you have to use a special green ABS to PVC glue, so I ordered some of that. The first application really held perfectly, but I still had a small leak, so I let that dry for a while, and then I coated heavily and then let the glue wick in at the leak point. This time it worked. No more leak. And with the repair to the shower drain piping complete, hey, camper's ready to roll. Now I just need to find some time to go out and actually camp in it and make sure all the systems are a go. After that, cosmetics. We start on the paint job, we start on the cabinets, everything inside to make it look pretty. And so, another project completed. Thanks again for watching, and as usual, questions and comments in particular are welcome. Please remember to like and share and subscribe. I'll see you next time on Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work. Papa out.